Alright, let's talk about a job. This one's a doozy. It's got no office, no time clock. The break room is about 3/4 of the planet. I'm talking about cleaning our oceans. For years we've treated the big blue like a bottomless garbage can. A place where our plastic forks, grocery bags just disappear. Spoiler alert, they don't. They break down into smaller and smaller pieces, forming a plastic soup choking the life out of our seas. This isn't just about pretty beaches. It's about planetary health. And that's a job for everyone. I've seen dirty jobs. I've waded through things you wouldn't name at dinner. But the scale here is something else. Millions of tons of plastic swirl out there. Massive garbage patches, some bigger than Texas. So, what's in the toolbox for this colossal job in 2025? It's not just bigger nets and more boats. We're talking about some seriously clever tech. Think of it like a multi-pronged attack. You've got your big guns, the massive systems designed to tackle the giant garbage patches floating in the middle of nowhere. Then, you have your frontline defenders. The smaller, nimbler gadgets that catch the plastic in rivers and along coastlines before it ever reaches the open ocean. It's a combination of offense and defense, and it's a whole lot smarter than what we were trying just a decade ago. These new tools are designed to work with the ocean, not against it. One of the most talked about pieces of kit is the autonomous barrier system. Imagine a huge floating fence, sometimes a mile long. It drifts with the ocean currents. But it's a smart fence. It uses the wind and the waves to move faster than the plastic it's trying to catch, corralling the debris into a giant collection zone. These systems are powered by solar panels. They are equipped with GPS, cameras, and all sorts of sensors. When you talk about the big guns, you have to talk about the Ocean Cleanup's System 03. This thing is the heavyweight champion of plastic collection. Launched late last year, it's the latest and greatest version of their massive floating barrier. Picture this, a U-shaped barrier that's nearly 1.5 miles long. That's about 2.2 kilometers for the metric folks. It's towed between two large vessels that slowly move through the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, one of the most concentrated areas of ocean plastic on the planet. This new system is a beast, capable of clearing an area the size of a football field every few seconds. How does it work? It's pretty straightforward, which is the beauty of it. The two vessels pull the long barrier through the water at a slow, steady pace, about 1.5 knots. The barrier hangs down about 13 feet into the water, deep enough to catch floating plastic, but shallow enough for fish and other marine life to swim safely underneath. As it moves, it funnels all the plastic debris toward a huge retention zone at the far end of the U-shape. It's like herding cattle, but instead of cows, you're rounding up a whole lot of plastic bottles, fishing gear, tiny microplastic fragments that have been swirling around for decades. Once that retention zone is full, and it can hold several tons of plastic, the crew gets to work. While System 03 is tackling the big mess out in the deep blue, there's another battle being fought closer to home. Take the city of Baltimore, for instance. They have a brilliant and surprisingly simple contraption called Mr. Trash Wheel. It's a permanently moored interceptor at the mouth of the Jones Falls River, which flows into the city's famous inner harbor. It looks like a giant cartoonish snail with googly eyes, but don't let the looks fool you. This thing is a workhorse. It uses the river's own current to turn a big water wheel, which powers a conveyor belt that lifts trash out of the water and into a dumpster barge. On days when the river current isn't strong enough, a backup system of solar panels kicks in to keep the wheel turning. Since it was first installed, Mr. Trash Wheel and its family, Professor Trash Wheel, Captain Trash Wheel, have removed over 2,000 tons of garbage. That's 2,000 tons of plastic bottles, styrofoam cups, cigarette butts that never made it into the Chesapeake Bay, and ultimately, the Atlantic Ocean. It's a perfect example of a localized solution that has a huge impact. A machine is only as good as the person who dreamed it up, and, well, the people behind this new wave of cleanup tech are a fascinating bunch. They aren't your typical corporate suits. Nope. They're inventors, sailors, and passionate environmentalists who saw a problem and decided they just had to do something about it. Take Boyan Slat, the founder of the Ocean Cleanup. He was just a teenager on a diving trip in Greece when he was shocked to see more plastic bags than fish. Instead of just getting bummed out, he got angry. Then he got to work. He came up with the initial concept for a passive cleanup system for a high school science project. Most people would have stopped there, but Boyan didn't. He dropped out of college, gave a TEDx talk that went viral, and used that momentum to raise millions of dollars to start his foundation. He faced a ton of criticism. People said his ideas were naive, that they wouldn't work, that the ocean was just too powerful. There were setbacks for sure. When you're tackling a job this big, there's no single magic bullet. You need a whole crew of different specialists, and that's what we're seeing with ocean cleanup. Let's break down the main methods. First, you have the massive offshore barriers, like System 03. Think of these as the deep-sea trawlers of trash collection. Their biggest strength is their scale, designed to operate in the open ocean far from land, where plastic is most concentrated, those giant garbage patches. By using the wind and currents, they can cover huge areas, with a relatively low carbon footprint compared to a fleet of traditional ships. They're built for the long haul. The downside? They're incredibly expensive to build and deploy. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. They require dedicated support vessels and a large crew to operate, adding cost and complexity. Out in the harsh open ocean, they're vulnerable to severe storms and to mechanical failures. They mainly collect floating and near-surface plastic. They don't do much for debris that's sunk to the seabed, a crucial part of the solution, but they can't do it alone. High risk, high reward. Let's be honest for a minute. As impressive as all this new technology is, it's not a perfect solution. It's a cleanup effort, not a cure. The biggest challenge is that we are trying to bail out a bathtub while the faucet is still running full blast. Every year, millions more tons of new plastic enter our rivers and our oceans. These cleanup systems are working hard, but they are struggling to keep up with the constant flow of new pollution. So while we celebrate the tons of trash being removed, we have to remember that even more is being added at the same time. It's a tough, uphill battle. Another hard truth is the problem of microplastics. The big systems are great at catching plastic bags, plastic bottles, fishing nets. But over time, that stuff breaks down under the sun and waves into tiny fragments, some smaller than a grain of sand. These microplastics are everywhere, from the surface to the deepest ocean trenches, and they are incredibly difficult to filter out of the water. It's easy to get discouraged by the sheer size of the problem, but if you look closely, you can see the tide starting to turn. The progress is real. As of today, in 2025, the Ocean Cleanup Project alone has removed over 10,000 tons of plastic from the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. That might sound like a drop in the bucket compared to the estimated 100,000 tons swirling around in that patch, but it's 10,000 tons that are no longer there. It's a tangible achievement that proves the technology works. This job, while massive, is not impossible. It's a beachhead in a very large war. More importantly, the plastic they collect isn't just going to a landfill. It's being brought back to shore and turned into new, durable products. The most famous example is the sunglasses they started making a few years ago, made entirely from certified plastic removed from the garbage patch. This creates a circular economy. It proves that this waste actually has value. When you buy a product made from this recycled material, you are directly funding the continuation of the cleanup. It turns consumers into active participants in the mission. The progress isn't just happening in the middle of the ocean. The network of river interceptors is expanding rapidly. What started as a single barge in Jakarta is now a global fleet. Interceptors are now operational in dozens of the world's most polluting rivers. Asia, Latin America. So, what does all this mean for you? It's great that there are giant robots cleaning the ocean, but this isn't a job we can just outsource to machines and a few dedicated engineers. This is an all-hands-on-deck situation. The single most important thing any of us can do is to help turn off that faucet. That means taking a hard look at our own consumption of single-use plastics. Every plastic bottle you refuse, every reusable bag you bring to the store, every straw you skip, it all adds up. It might not feel like you're saving the world, but you're reducing the demand that creates the problem in the first place. Support the people doing the work. These organizations, from the massive ocean cleanup to the smaller Seabin project, rely on funding and public support to keep their operations running. You can donate, you can buy their recycled products, or you can simply share their story. Spreading the word is a job in itself. When more people know about the problem and the solutions that are emerging, it builds pressure on governments and corporations to step up and do their part. Your voice is a tool, and it's a powerful one. Use it to advocate for better waste management in your own community and for policies that hold polluters accountable. And if you're able, get your hands dirty, literally. Join a local beach or river cleanup. There are organizations all over the world that host these events.